I've been using this red light therapy device since 2022, and in this video I'm going to share everything you need to know about this device, whether or not it's worth it, how we've been using it, and really anything that you need to know to make an informed decision on whether or not you should invest $500 in this light therapy device. And I'm referring to here to the Kineon Move Pro, and I just looked at my order confirmation email from back in the days to confirm how long we've been using the device, and it's been over 3 years. I can't believe it how quickly time goes by, but yeah, this is it. This is the latest strap that is. We have several of those, including some of the older straps you can see here. That's an older one. And we've been using this for different types of injuries, mostly workout, CrossFit induced, I have to say. And by we, I mean my wife and I, but also the kids have been using it for growing pains and for insect bites, especially bee stings, and for a lot of other things. And so in this video, we're going to talk about all of this. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of this device, let me share with you just a couple of pieces of information that I think you will know about red light therapy in general, or light therapy, because that will make you help understand how this device works and why it's different from many of the other red light therapy devices on the market. I should also mention that this guy here used to be called the Knee Plus because it was originally developed to help people with knee pain like osteoarthritis or knee injuries. In fact, as of this recording, I'm dealing with a double meniscus tear, one complex tear and a simple tear on different parts of my meniscus, and a split MCL. So that's the first time, really, unfortunately, that I have to use, or I get to use, the Move Pro for what it was originally designed for. But you can use this on any joint with the flexible strap, and especially with the optional extender strap. You can use it on your back, on larger muscle groups. I've used it on my shoulder, my elbow, anywhere, my lower back. So there are different use cases. But let's maybe talk really briefly about red light therapy and how it works, how it's supposed to work, and how you can tell whether or not a red light therapy device can be effective based on what it does and how it does it. And so maybe the first thing that we should clarify is terminology. When I mention, or when I say red light therapy in this video, what I really mean is a combination of red and near infrared light. It's often referred to as photobiomodulation. That's the more technically accurate term, but many people just call it red light therapy. And the truth is, it's usually a combination of red and near infrared light. And the reason why red light therapy or photobiomodulation works is because a lot of cells in our body, especially in muscles and in joint tissue and cartilage tissue, they have photoreceptors or light receptors. And when those receptors get hit with a specific frequency of light, specifically those in the red and near infrared spectrum, they get excited. They do something, right? And it typically leads to improved blood flow. And improved blood flow means more nutrients, because of that are delivered inside of the blood or with the blood, gets to the affected tissue, and that can speed up the healing process and recovery. That can speed up the regrowth of damaged cartilage tissue, and it also has a temporary pain numbing effect. So when I use the device and I'm in pain, shortly after I feel like I'm in less pain, because some of those molecules, some of those chemicals that get released in response to photobiomodulation blunt my pain response. And so that's only temporary, unfortunately, but at the same time, I think the most, or for me at least, the more important factor of red light therapy is that it delivers oxygenated and nutrient-rich blood to the affected area so that the body can rebuild and recover quicker. That's ultimately what it does. And what's important, there are a couple of things that are important with photobiomodulation. One is the type of light frequency, and I'm going to share with you a link to a spreadsheet that contains all of the, or most of the available research on photobiomodulation with information on what frequencies were used, because Kineon has very much, or uses frequencies that have been studied the most, that have been shown to be the most effective for healing injured tissue, be it muscle tissue, be it cartilage tissue, joint tissue, or anything in between. And so the frequency, type of frequency is important. The other thing that's important is the light dosing. And that light dosing, what it really means is the amount of energy that gets delivered at a certain frequency into your tissue. And if you can, for example, if I had, a shoulder issue here in my shoulder joint, there's a lot of fleshy tissue in the form of muscle tissue, but it could be fat tissue, can be, skin tissue, obviously. That's in between. And so the red light needs to penetrate those layers to reach the underlying tissue that might be inflamed or injured, if it's a cartilage tissue, And so dosing is important because it ensures that those frequencies actually hit the damaged tissue to support the healing process. It doesn't really make sense to use frequencies that would only penetrate the skin, or maybe, not even penetrate all the layers of the skin fully, and not even reach where they are supposed to. So dosing is incredibly important. That means the amount of light that gets emitted, the power of the light, the frequency of the light, and the angle of the light. Because if you think about it, if you use a red light bulb and shine it onto your skin, chances are that's not gonna do much, right? Because the angle is way too wide to effectively penetrate the tissue. You need a narrow angle to achieve higher penetration. And so what Kineon does is they use a combination of LEDs and lasers having a fairly narrow cone of light to deeply penetrate the tissue and deliver enough of that light energy to where it needs to go. And so that's one of the main things with Kineon. Their dosing is very effective. The amount of light that gets emitted, the strength of the light, and the angle of the light, all of this has been very well dialed in with the Move Pro to get the benefits you want to get. And so going back now to how we've been using the Move Pro, right now I'm using it for my knee. I've injured my knee. Honestly, I don't know exactly how that happened. I know it happened during CrossFit, during a fairly heavy push press where my knee or my foot might have not been aligned properly, and I felt like a pop on the back of my knee, and that was the popliteus or popliteus. I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, but it was like one of those joints that is on the back, or one of the cartilage or muscles that's on the back of the knee that is responsible for the tibia rotation. So whenever you raise your flex your hamstrings, then your tibia rotates, and that popliteus is responsible for that. And when I heard that, I obviously then had to stop working out for a little bit, but as soon as I felt better, even though the injury had not fully healed, I began working out again. I started running, as part of my CrossFit workouts. I started lifting heavy, I started squatting. I just did whatever I would normally do because I figured it's gonna be okay. And I think because that there was still inflammation in there and that tibia rotation didn't work fully yet, I still didn't have the range of motion and mobility, then I kind of compensated during certain movements, and that put more pressure on my meniscus. And so at some point, it wasn't really a painful experience, but at some point I remembered like a clicking kind of noise and suddenly feeling pain in front of my knee, and then ultimately got an MRI, and it turned out that meniscus is not in very good shape and my MCL is split in half. So no bueno. And so that's when I started then using for the first time the Move Pro on my knee. And the protocol that I follow with this is I just use it 15 minutes once or twice a day. I try to rotate it around my knee in a way that it covers different angles. Because I don't know exactly, I have the MRI pictures, but for me it's kind of, mapping this to where that exactly is on my knee and what exact position. So I just rotate it to cover multiple areas of my meniscus, ensuring that I also cover the injured area. And I do this once or twice a day. And in the past, whenever I had issues with, for example, tennis elbow or my shoulder, at some point I had like a little strain or a tweak, I did the same thing. I used it once or twice a day for 15 minutes. That's all it takes. I can do this while watching TV or doing something else. I could even do it now, talking to you. And it's a very much a passive device, I like that because it means it doesn't necessarily take away from other things, other priorities that I have, like working or spending time with my kids or having dinner or whatever. I can use it while I do this. And the important aspect here is with any effective therapy, depending on how old you are, the type of injury you have, the type of condition you have, it might take a while to heal, even though you use red light therapy. And so the prognosis for my knee was, from my PT, expect for the healing process to take up to a year. And I'm 43 years old. I'm not the youngest buck in the neighborhood anymore. So the older you get, the longer it can take for stuff to heal. And also the severity of the injury. So it can take a while. I've had issues where within a week the pain went away and I was back to fully working out. If it was a minor injury, it can happen fairly quickly. But don't underestimate the time it takes for severe injuries to heal. You cannot expect a knee that you've been abusing for decades potentially, and all the cartilage tissue that has degraded, to grow back in 2 weeks. That's likely not gonna happen. So you need to take time, but generally speaking, within a few weeks, in some cases within a few months, in some cases it might take even longer, you can expect to recover quicker than if you did not use the Kineon at all. That's really the main thing. It speeds up the healing process. It ensures likely that the wound is healing more effectively because more blood flow, more oxygenated blood flow, but it's not gonna cut your your recovery time in half, probably. So that's one nuance I want to just give you, so that you don't expect, you tear a muscle and then you expect to be back in action in 2 weeks just because you use a red light therapy device like the Kineon Move Pro here. So that's not the case. But to maybe talk a little bit more about this device. So over the years, there have been different straps available, some Velcro. This one is the latest one that I just received. I really like this because it's a little bit longer. It allows you to use it maybe if you have a thick quads or whatever, to use it there as well. They're very easy to adjust and very easy to also unclip here. This is magnetic with a clip. You can just hook this in and then change the orientation if you want to. So it's very flexible, very convenient to adjust it exactly the way you want to and to use it exactly on that spot where you need it. It can be magnetically charged, so you can take off these individual modules and just put them into the magnetic charger. One thing I want to point out regarding those modules, that's an important thing. You can see the surface area of those lasers and LEDs is relatively small. What that means is that the Move Pro is the ideal device if you have an injury in one of your joints or even in your larger muscle groups. But if it's an injury that's localized, right? If you say, oh, my entire back is sore, or both of my quads are sore, left, right, top and bottom, because of heavy squatting and deadlifting that I did, the Kineon Move Pro is likely not the ideal device, because with those 3 modules, I mean, yes, you can get 2 devices and then hook them together and have multiple modules if that's what you want. But just with one strap, your surface area is limited to typically an individual injury. So shoulder, pecs maybe, biceps, triceps. Even if you injure, let's say, your hamstring, that injury is typically localized. It's not your entire hamstring that's injured. It's typically one area that you strain, or worst case scenario, maybe tear. And so for that, the Kineon Move Pro works. For, reducing soreness on larger muscle groups, it's probably not as effective simply because of that small surface area. But again, that small surface area, that localization or that focus is really important, so it can penetrate your tissue deep enough to make a difference. Using a red light panel for, osteoarthritis in your joint is likely not going to help you much. For that, you need something very specific, very focused, like this Move Pro. Turn it on is also super easy. You just press this button and all of the lights come on. You can sync them so they all turn on at the same time, or you can remove or unhook them from each other and then only one comes on and off, or multiple, depending on how you want to use it. So you have the option to do either or. You can change, like this module, the module here I have is actually an older version. There is a newer version right now, but you can, by just holding it, you can change the time from 5, 10 to 15 minutes runtime. I typically have it on the 15 minutes because that's my standard protocol. There might be cases for maybe only doing 10 minutes, especially if you do it multiple times a day. This at the end of the day is like a mild or hormetic stressor almost for your tissue that triggers a response, to get more blood flow into the area. As such, you can overdo it. So don't use red light therapy for an hour a day because that's likely counterproductive. That causes more stress to the tissue than is helpful. That's maybe another thing that I should point out. You can overdo it. But beyond that, this is really it. We've been using it, again, as I said, since 2022. My wife's been using it for various injuries. The kids have been using it for growing pains, on their shins. I had that too when I was a kid. I'm not sure if you very experienced that, but it was painful, I remember. I wish we had a Kineon back in the days when I was a kid. So the kids use it. I even use it when I get stung by bees. I'm not allergic in the sense that I don't go into an anaphylactic shock or anything, but I swell up like crazy. And if I don't use the Kineon right away and long enough to denature the proteins in that bee venom, I swell, or wasps even. The other day I got stung by a wasp and I failed to use the Kineon because I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna finish what I'm doing. And my entire leg from my knee down looked like an elephant's. Yeah, not pretty. So we use it for that. We use it for injuries. Right now, again, I use it for my meniscus. I can feel the pain relief immediately, but it's only temporary, So there is just chemical suppressing, the pain signaling or modulating the pain signaling. And so that is a temporary benefit, but it's a nice benefit nonetheless. But in the long run, really having more oxygenated blood in my tissue is the main thing and the main benefit that I get out of the Move Pro. I have a detailed review on my blog as well if you want to check this out. There's a There's links to scientific research. I have a dedicated red light therapy playlist on YouTube, so you can check that out as well. Talk about different ways of using that for osteoarthritis, for other inflammatory conditions. That's worthwhile checking out as well. I have a discount code for you and a link in the description. Check that out if you want to give this a try. Again, list price is $500. Totally worth it if you suffer from a debilitating either acute injury or maybe something chronic like osteoarthritis. This thing can really help and increase the quality of your life at the end of the day. You know, being injured is never fun. I absolutely dislike not being able to jump and do all the things that I normally do because of my self-inflicted meniscus injury, but it is what it is. I'm glad I have this. I use it every day, and so should you if you have any type of injury that red light therapy can help you with. So go to the comments and let me know, what are you currently dealing with in terms of injury? Do you have an injury? Do you have a chronic condition like osteoarthritis, knee pain, whatever it might be? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. And then maybe at the end, let me know how you think you could use something like the Move Pro, this red light therapy device, to speed up the recovery of your injury or condition. Until next time.